There's a concentrated effort to stop it. They'll do anything to stop us, especially now. Because when is our opposition?
He's been fighting for us for so long. So many schools of thoughts we've been through, yeah, to keep us strong. So tell me, what is it that you're willing to do to make our dreams come true? Yeah, make our dreams come true. Been a long time coming, but now we're here. So won't you stand up and show no fear? For the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. 'Cause he's the man of the hour. They kidnapped him for building Tamare. He put his life on the line for us all. And for the truth, the lies must fade away. Fade away. It's been a long time coming. Yes, let's be strong. For the 7 seals are breaking. It won't be long to make our dreams come true. For a life that's new. Some are called and few are chosen. How about you? For the master, master teacher. Freedom 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 for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Think not that we are earthborn, we come from earth, we may be, but we are life-born spirit, and without knowing we can never be free. Knowledge of this was lost when we were cast into blindness. The master teacher came and broke the chains of bondage. For the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. Freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher. For the master, bring it, master teacher. Bring it, freedom for the master, master teacher. Freedom for the master, bring it, master teacher. Bring it, freedom for the master, master teacher. 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 Freedom for the master.
They did everything in their power to take this land and make sure that what's happening right now does not go on. They tried every trick in the book. They ain't finished. They tried slander, defamation of character. They tried to lock brothers up, harass sisters on the street, stop every car coming down, make sure they did everything they could. And not one person come out and help us. Why? Because they had us marked as a cult. Oh, there's some crazy suicide cult. There's a concentrated effort to stop it. They'll do anything to stop us, especially now. Because when is our opposition?
He's been fighting for us for so long. So many schools of thoughts we've been through, yeah, to keep us strong. So tell me, what is it that you're willing to do to make our dreams come true? Yeah, make our dreams come true. Been a long time coming, but now we're here. So won't you stand up and show no fear? For the master, master and it won't be long to make our dreams come true for a life that's new. Some are called and few are chosen. And how about for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, master teacher, freedom for the master. Spirit, and without knowing we can never be free. Knowledge of this was lost when we were cast into blindness. The master teacher came and broke the chains of bondage. For the master, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher, freedom for the master, freedom, master teacher.
Rahubat Muisar, greetings family. Anuki Sakensa Kamreye. I am Sakensa Kamreye, one of the millions of student teachers of the master teacher, Parnabab Yanun, known to many as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, His Excellency, who is the bringer of this right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding to liberate the minds of people on the planet worldwide, for those who choose to raise their vibration and raise their consciousness to the culture of Wu-Sabat. So what we do on Tuesdays, for those that are new to the channel, please like, share, subscribe. What we do is we give you the opportunity to call in live and ask questions, or put your questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to address them for you. We also have a supporting Telegram channel which you can join and continue asking questions throughout anytime you want to ask a question, and we have many student teachers that will help to answer your questions. We also have live classes regularly every week on Saturdays at nishat.co.uk, where you can get all the information. It is always an honor and a pleasure to come before you to share, what we've been taught by the master teacher, Parnabab Yanun, who has covered every subject you can possibly think of, with some 1,000 plus scrolls or books covering everything. There are some misconceptions from people who don't take the time to get to know who we are, what we are about, what we teach, and people have these misconceptions that, we're just for one particular type of people. No, we're here for humanity, we're here for everyone. And no one wins the race in racism. It's another phrase that you hear us use all the time. And we say, don't believe us, check it out. Because only when you confirm something for yourself can you be truly able to say, that's true, that's a fact. You see, so we cover, and for those who have seen our previous videos, we cover a wide range of subjects, and we don't know what people are going to call and ask us. So, we are very transparent, we're very accessible. People can reach us any day, any time, by way of the Telegram groups, by way of our live classes, by way of our regular, classes, weekly, worldwide, in different locations and different stores across the world. And if you are new, our official worldwide website is the UnitedSabiansWorldwide.com, where you can find out more information and the different locations across the world where you can not only read, study, but have a social interaction and participate and be involved with some of the things that we do for the community. All right, so without further ado, let me just see who's online. Remember to share and let everyone know we're live. Sheikh Berber, Rahubat. We have Coco Brown in the house, Rahubat. George, Rahubat. We're going to put the number for you to call if you'd like to call in live. We're going to post that shortly. Remember, you can help us in many, many ways to spread the love, as we refer to it, Ashuk, divine love, to the world. We can heal the world by starting to transform ourselves. Maramea Rahubat, Hara Rahubat, OSM, our Soul's Matter, is dedicated to bringing you right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, bringing you truth, you know, undiluted. Okay, so Sheikh Berber says, Noble Jew Ali, the last prophet. That's not really a question. I mean, the word prophet can be defined in many ways. There are prophets that, you know, like the difference between a Rasul. There are prophets that bring a scripture, and there are prophets that are messengers. And, you know, we when you look at the hierarchy of titles that are used, we're dealing with a being that has the highest title as a supreme being, which is far greater than an emperor, a king, a prince, a prophet. All right, so that wasn't a question. I'm just saying you made that statement. You carried on to say he's a political prisoner, wake up. Don't know what. Again, newcomers or people that just make statements, please, if you have a question, ask the question so we can address it. All right, so the number for you to call in, if you would like to call in live and ask a question, is 07. If you're outside the UK, you should put the international code, which is +44 753 996 3882. Okay, you can call us now via WhatsApp. It's free if you have a live question, and we'll address that for you. All right, whilst we are waiting for questions, it's important to know, as Sheikh has mentioned about political prisoners, it's important to know that our master teacher has been incarcerated unlawfully, based on a conspiracy that was planned, designed, and orchestrated by a group of people, a number of disgruntled people that wanted to see his downfall, to bring down a prominent leader in our community, and maliciously they went about to fabricate all kinds of lies which became these allegations. But truth is truth, and justice will be served at the end of the day. Sometimes it may take a long time, But if you're steadfast and you know that you're innocent and you know the truth will prevail. And so now a lot of evidence has been, new evidence has been presented. And this is where the legal fight is, in terms of you can't really, not take into account new undisputed evidence. And that's our priority, to bring an innocent man home. So, that's what we really must focus on. However, we still have to do the works of helping people raise their vibration, raise their consciousness, unplug from the spell of religion, which is part of the problem that causes the divisions and the wars and the fighting in the world. Okay? I always wondered about the trees and how big they actually grow. My question is, do trees start from a seed? Yeah, I mean, there are different types of trees, depending on which part of the world you are. Remember that certain things only grow in certain climates, but that's a really good question, because trees go deep down in terms of their roots, and they're connected, and they, for lack of a better word, just to give you a visual representations, they hold hands by their roots. So they're all connected in a network under the ground, as well as the ones you see, above the ground. And they, depending on where you are, some trees, this is actually a very interesting question, because some trees are also not from here. They were imported here from other places. And in fact, let me grab a scroll and I'll read for you. So this will put into perspective the question you're asking, because a lot of people may not be aware that when your mind is open, you have to look at things from a holistic point of view. Like, this planet is just one planet in a solar system of many, many planets, and in a galaxy of many galaxies, in a universe of many universes, and in the omniverse. So some people only look at the beginning of life from when they arrived, i.e. from their, what we call their birth, right? Others will go further and say, okay, where did humanity start from? Others will go further and say, where did the planet come from? Others will go further and say, how did our galaxy form? Others will go further still to say, how did our universe form? Others will go further and say, there are millions and millions of galaxies, and go further and say, there are a number of universes. And others will go further and say, well, how did the cosmos form? And the further back you go, the more information is required to explain things. And your mind opens really wide when you start to look at things from what we call quantum physics or quantum mechanics. But let me read this introduction. This is from a scroll known as, most people know it as the Black Book, but we know it as the Sacred Records of Nefertiti Atum Re. Nefertiti Atum Re, the Sacred Records of Nefertiti Atum Re. All right, let me read a little bit, because it ties into your question about trees. Before time as you know it was logged, beings existed in and out of this dimension. Worlds existed. Planets were inhabited by intelligent and not so intelligent beings, who all lived in their own time zones, based on their locations in this vast, boundless universes. Each place is in itself the place or origin of time, as in the word then, which becomes past and present simultaneously. These were agreeable and disagreeable beings. This was a system that was very similar in that presently on earth, called the chain of existence that existed, whereas stars burned out, planets died, and beings had to seek residence in other star systems. Oftentimes, we developed new survival tactics, eating habits, and even genetic alterations and manipulations to make it possible for us to exist in the environments unsuited for our biological existence. We oftentimes had to alter environments, create climates and seasons. Oftentimes, the survival of one being meant the extinction of another. One of these such star systems was Risk, a planet in the 19th galaxy, the 8th planet of a tri-solar system, which was inhabited by the Riskians, also called Neteru or Natharu. The three sons of this planet Risk were known in time by different names, the most common being Atum, Atun, and Amun, referred to as the Re or Ra, rays. The Sumerians called them Utu, Afsu, and Shamash. When this planet Risk was visited by disagreeable beings from a dying star, they were welcomed into this great empire. Those that welcomed them were called Neteru, Natharu. The Sumerians called them Anutu. The Council of Nine Enneads of the pre-dynastic period, before man was called man, these deities met with open arms, and they passed our decision onto the 24 elders of Risk, who passed it onto the 144 governors of the 18th and 19th galaxies, 72 governors of the disagreeable 18th galaxy, and 72 governors of the agreeable 19th galaxy. Thus, it was agreed to share one of the three continents of the planet Risk with these beings in distress. Risk, three continents are called Zarantu, Danoria, and Kosmusta. These disagreeable beings were only allowed to live on the continent called Danuria. In time, these disagreeable beings had decided that they wished to rule the whole planet and even the whole galaxy under one such being called Tarnush, who ruled a variety of star systems such as Draco, Aldebaran, Betelgeuse, Pleiades, Andromeda, and others, all on this side of the Milky Way. Now, recent discoveries, this book was released in the 90s, by the way, so when it's saying recent discoveries have found the 19th galaxy through other star systems, where scientists and astronomers have discovered 4 new solar systems. One, Fomalhaut, where a star is covered by matter. 2, Beta Pictoris, which shows a star covered by dust and a blob below it covered by dust. And 3, HR 4796A, a cloud of dust surrounds, which is an infant solar system. 4, Vega, where you see a star and a concentrated spot, then layers of clouds. So this is explaining how scientists, how they labeled when they discover, these new star systems. Okay, they have also discovered 2 suns. We have a call. I'll stop and take the call, and I will carry on reading this because I want to get to the part about the trees. Rahubat, greetings caller. What's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question, please? Hold on, Terry, we just Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Rahul, but I can hear you now. Go ahead. What's your question, Terry?
It's not Terry, it's not Terry.
Oh, I thought I heard Terry. Sorry, what's your name, caller?
Terry Muir from Jamaica.
Okay, greetings.
Okay, so I've been thinking, like, since melanated Africans have 9 ether DNA, and I was also watching this video that they were saying that the people of Africa and also like Jamaicans and Black Americans, they say that we all have nine DNA series while the rest of the world has 6. So what benefit does that DNA give us?
Okay, so it's kind of like saying, if you have more of anything, what benefits is it? It's DNA, first of all, records information, right? So you will have more information in terms of when you break down the different strands, because the more they study DNA, the more they're amazed of its, abilities and qualities. So it's like saying if you had a container that was 6 meters and you had another container that was 9 meters, the one with 9 is going to hold more, right? It's going to hold 3 extra levels to give you the 9 from the 6. So when you start to look at everything in terms of your structure and how you're composed and everything from your brain, your melanin, your skin, your abilities, basically, we have a actual fact called neuroscience of wu-nuwapu, which goes into that in detail in the sense of, your capabilities, or the fact that you have the potential, the highest potential, and it's down to you if your DNA is activated, if it's, being used, because you unlock more and more by way of once you activate different aspects of your being, and including your DNA, that you're currently not aware of or able to use. So depending on what you're measuring, whether it's intelligence, whatever, you're gonna have the potential to be the highest. But just because you have the potential to be the highest doesn't necessarily mean that you're using, it's like you're not firing on all cylinders. So what Wu-Sabat does is help you to turn yourself inside out, to reactivate and reprogram yourself, and so you can actually start to use more of your abilities. So that's the advantage. It's like if you have a car and the engine is more souped up than another one, then you have the ability to drive faster, etc. But it doesn't mean that the driver behind the wheel may not know how to drive that car or even to use that power or that potential. So that's what Wu-Sabat does. It helps you to be the best you can, the highest of yourself. Does that help?
Yes, it helps. I have one more question though.
Go ahead.
Now, when I asked you about Esau and Jacob being twin brothers and twin nations, you said that was a concocted story.
Right.
So I would like to know, what proof is there that it's concocted?
Because there's no scientific basis where you have a person giving birth, or 2 people that are the same. So, for example, 2 Negroids giving birth to 3 different races at the same time in the sense of triplets. That's not fact. And the Bible and the religious books, none of them are authentic in sense of they are not originals. No originals exist today. So we can go through many aspects of showing you how, stories have been concocted in the Bible and in the Quran to give you false information or distorted information. One of them being that the woman came from the man, when that's also not a fact. You know, a man was not created from the dust of the ground and then a woman taken out of his rib. Every person on the planet comes from a woman, which is actually back to front. And even the fact that you're told that's the first life doesn't make sense, because there's already life in the dust of the ground or the soil. It might be life forms in the sense of bacteria or minute or micro life forms, but life is still there. So, I mean, we can literally go from the cover all the way to the last book and show you the many concocted stories and distortions. It's not even a disputed fact anymore, because you just have to look at the date of when these books came about. How can the beginning of everything start with what they call Genesis, which is only going back 6,000 years ago according to the records, but people and beings have been on the planet for millions of years? You see, so it's like 6,000 years is a very short period of time compared to 1,000,000 years or 2,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years. So of course, to tell you that there was a being that created everything in 6 days, which is, you know, even the beginning of it, you know, is called the Holy Bible. When you break down what the word holy means, it means pure. And what does the word Bible mean? Where does it come from? It comes from Babel or Babel, Babylon, Bab-Ilion, Bab-El. So these are the games in terms of, if you don't know the language, then you're reading a word thinking it means one thing when it doesn't mean that. So the actual word Genesis is a translation from the Hebrew of bara shith. You look at the word bara is talking about a reconstruction, not the beginning of everything, a reconstruction, a refilling of the earth, which means that there was already something here, something happened, and now it had to be refilled again. And that's where it picks up. And that's why as you start to go into, okay, if the word Barashith means a refilling or a reconstruction, then what took place before that, you see? And that's why when you get to the whole story of the Adam and Eve, Cain killing Abel, and then he's afraid that someone is going to kill him when he's banished, automatically your brain is going to go, well, who's going to kill him if there's nobody else on the planet? You see, so as we go through and dissect it word for word from the beginning all the way to the end, because sometimes we just get into reading the sentences, or we say the verses, but to form a verse you have to start with the building blocks of the language, which would be the alphabet. Then the alphabet will form the words, and each word has a meaning, so you have to know the meaning of the word. Then those words are put together to form sentences. So it says in the beginning was the word, so you have to learn the word, and the words are what causes people confusion, because you're reading a word that's a translation from another language, and the way the word is spelt is part of the spellings that puts the spell on you. Because if you're reading a book and a word that says the beginning, and in English, if you know English, you have to study English, because there's a system of grammar and how you put, when you read something, like there's punctuation there, you have to understand, like, okay, a full stop, a comma, an exclamation mark, these all give it, you know, the way you relay it. So when you say in the beginning, that's completely different to saying at the beginning, you see? But people will leave these little things out, like the word in. What does the word in mean? Because you have in and you have out. So then if you're saying in the beginning, not at the beginning, you're already thrown off. And then you say things like God is in heaven. To be in heaven means he's inside something. So he cannot be like bigger than the container that he's inside, because he wouldn't fit into the container. I mean, we can literally go from word from the cover of the Bible. As I said, Babel means confusion. So you're saying Holy Bible, holy confusion, or pure confusion. You see, so when you start to read it, you do get confused because a lot of things don't make sense. And I can jump and skip to, you know, the Noah story, the Jonah story with him being inside a well. You cannot survive in the belly of a well because the acid will kill you. You see, you cannot be able to get two of every animals and different species that only are found on the other side of the world into the boat that's on the other side of the world. These things don't make sense. And you can say, okay, why did God put the tree in the garden? Knowing that it literally tells you that there was a beast of the field, and that this beast was conniving, and more conniving than anything else, and was full of technology or trickery. So it stands to reason that if Eve was naive, she would be tricked. So why did God set that up in a way that she's going to be tricked? And another question, how old were Adam and Eve when they were created? See, all of these things, you see what I'm saying? All of these things, like, if they were created, were they babies or they were just created adults? Because a woman and a young man, they go through stages of development from puberty, etc., etc. So they don't tell you how old she was and how, you know, God puts a tree knowing that, you know, it's a temptation. And we can go on and on and on and on. But I'm just showing you how, when I say things are concocted, is because you have to dissect and study and research things to see for yourself. And it won't sit right with you. It won't make sense. And you have a million questions. But then you have no one to go to answer those questions until we came along and say, look, ask us anything. Because we've studied it, you know, and we've studied it so that we can help clear off the confusion that is keeping people's minds entrapped in these spells, and that causes a lot of chaos on the planet, causes a lot of fights, wars, disagreements, arguments, because everybody wants to be right. But there's no way, right? There's no right way to do wrong things. So you're either right or you're wrong. That's simple as it is. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But people don't want to accept when they're wrong, because it puts them in a position of having to accept and say, you know what, I'm wrong. Until this day, just in general, people don't like to be wrong, because you've been trained to feel that you must always be right. But, you know, so I hope that's helped. If you have any other questions, please feel free to go ahead. If not, I'm going to move on.
This last question is about fifth dimensional awareness that everybody's talking about now. So if there are these beings called the Pleiadians, and they're teaching that humans are ascending into a fifth dimensional awareness state, is this something that is entirely false? Is it a ludicrous belief?
What I'm saying is that even in your previous question, you said they. People say this to us, they say this, people are saying this. We're like, okay, which people? What are they saying? Do they allow you to scrutinize and question them to prove and like answer questions about what they are saying? You know, because people will come to us to explain what other people are saying. And we're like, we're here to teach Wu-Sabat. We know Wu-Sabat is the highest level of information and surpasses anything that others are teaching. So why are we going to, you know, like be concerned with what others are teaching when we've got 9, like we say to you all the time, there are more dimensions than 5. We're 9 ether beings. We've already done a video called From 3D to 9D, which is dealing with 9 dimensions. So if there are 9, of course there's going to be 5, because the highest number is 9. So why would it just stop at 5 dimensions? People that are coming across the information for the first time, they will teach you about that. But we as supreme beings of 9 ether, we know that really things are limitless. Because even when you say 9, 9 is just the end, and then you start again, because when you get to 9 you start again, and you just use compound numbers where you say 10, 11, 12, and then when you get to 19 it's a start again where you start going 20, 21, 22, and it goes on till you get to the point where it's 9 to the 9th power of 9, which is 9 ether. So not everyone has the ability to tap into the higher dimensions or higher realms, because beings are limited based on, as you said initially, their composition in terms of, you know, are they 5 ether, 6 ether, 7 ether, 8 ether, or 9 ether? And beings that are, you know, limited, they're only going to talk to the level of what they know. So yeah, I mean, we don't, you know, we're not here to explain and break down other people's doctrines. Let them make themselves available, and who the they you're talking about is, you need to ask them. But we know that the reality is we deal with 9 mind, 9 ether, and knowing that 9 is the highest and we're 9 ether beings. Does that help?
Yes, it helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, have you pressed the like button, shared this live stream? If you haven't, please do so. Okay, let's have a look at some of the... Oh, let me finish, because I want to get to that point about the trees. Yeah, so I was talking about the discoveries of the different star systems. And he said they have also discovered 2 suns, and they will soon discover a third. That's dealing with the tri-solar system, because at the time he was putting out this information, the master teacher, Pana Babyanun, people were contending about the 3 or tri-solar systems, because he was saying about the planet Risk has 3 suns. But they did. So on October the 8th, 1997, astronomers have discovered what they call the most powerful star as of yet, and named it the Pistol Star because of its shape. The star was discovered using the Hubble telescope, which is powerful enough to see eruptions, right? The magnitude of the star is 9 million times brighter than the sun that we know and are familiar with. As the agreeable beings from the 19th galaxy get nearer to the disagreeable beings from the 18th galaxy, and the time runs out, and the star wars in the form of quasars, meteorites, showers, climatic alterations, floods, landslides, tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, viruses, and goes. The disagreeable are in theory and confusion. This is a repeat of what took place on Risk, and then this disagreeable being, Tarnush, also known as Beelzebub, Humbaba, Zuen, the dragon, Satan, etc., wished to rule Ilion. This resulted in the destruction of the shield that protected Risk, much like what the disagreeable amongst your race of humans who are destroying your ozone layer are doing today. I want to see how much I want to read before I get to... Okay, I'm going to skip because I wanted to get to this point. So it says, okay, I'll just go to the second paragraph in the introduction, where it says trees were grown or transported from other planets. Why you have plants on this planet that attack and kill one another, and so many different kinds of plant species. Many different kinds of insects were also transported to balance the ecology. These transportations of insects and plant life from other planets brought about all types of air and environments, climates, diseases and colds and sicknesses to Earth, which is why during the pollination season, some humans get allergies while others don't. Some humans catch severe colds during the winter seasons while others don't. Many humans have allergic reactions to certain food intakes while others don't. So your planet became a ground for all types of beings to survive. It was destroyed by several meteorite showers, then replenished over and over again. The sea filled with all forms of alien life forms for food, and many skin diseases, blood diseases, even allergic reactions. With these beings come different types of climates, diseases, colds, sicknesses, etc. Not to mention that the scientific experiments and breeding of humans were abruptly disrupted by invading disagreeable beings, and the Homo sapiens project is not complete. Thus, humans are in serious need of upgrading to divinity. Yeah, creation took place a period of 6 days. It was brought to a completion on the 7th day. After this creation, human beings needed 112 corrections, of which only 76 has been done up to the date of 1998. Thus, you need 36 more corrections. So I'm just saying that the Genesis story where we were talking about, where people think is the beginning of everything, but it's really the refilling or the reconstruction or the terraforming, because the planet, not the entire planet, but it was hit by meteorites many times, and beings had to repair it, and they brought and transported trees and plants and insects and other things to basically recreate this aquarium and this ecology that we're in. And this is why it's sorted out by so many different extraterrestrials and species, and because it has so many different atmospheres, you know, at the same time, for that's conducive for many beings, the waters, the land, the sea, the air, you know. So yeah, there are different trees that are not even from here, you know. So yeah, I hope that helped with that question. But let's get back to the chat until we get another call coming. Okay, so that was from the Ray Massey Show, Raw and Uncut. And then JT3, can you explain the differences between 9 ethers, 8 ethers, 7 ethers, and 6 ethers? Thank you. All right, so when we're talking about ethers, right, we're talking about the most, in terms of, when you look at everything, you have things that are very dense, solid, and people break it down into 3 to make it simple, right? So there people will say, like, taking ice, you say ice is in a physical form, and then when you melt the ice, it becomes liquid, and then when you heat the ice, it goes into a vapor or steam. That's just 3, but when you look at the number 3, you have 3 levels. So you have 3 to the 3 times 3 basically. So every time we say 3, you have to look at, there are 3 levels to that. And so again, if you watch the 3D to 9D video, it explains this. And in religion, in say Islam, they will call the lower level of the human beings the nas, right? They'll call that nasut. Then the second level, so this is like where, let's say, the physical or the ice. Then the second level, they will call that malakut, the realm of the angels, or where the malaika, the angels, exist. Then the third level, they will say lahut, right? Lahut will be like where they'll say the bosom of Allah, or the highest. In life, this translates into ABC, 1, 2, 3, people, places, and things, morning, noon, and night, breakfast, lunch, and supper. Everything is put into 3 because of the 3-dimensional world, to make it simple for people to digest. But now, there are 9 levels. The reason I say 3 times 3 is because to get the highest in terms of the multiplication or the function of mathematics, if you said 3 minus 3, you're going to get what? 0. If you said 3 plus 3, you're going to get 6. If you said 3 divided by 3, you're going to get 1. But if you say 3 times 3, you're going to get 9. So 9 being the highest to multiply, to grow. And so when you're looking at states of existence, 9 will be the highest. And when we say 9, 9 to the 9th power of 9, because it's continuous, and people will refer to this as infinity, because they will say it gets to a point where they can't count anymore, right? So because it just keeps repeating and repeating. So when we're talking about 9 ether, the beings that were seeded on this planet first by those original 9 ether beings, we refer to as the overseers or Parnatharu, right? Their offspring and their children on the planet, being the Africans or the Nagaru, they are 9 ether. Then you will say, okay, who came next from the 9 ether? Then you look at what we call, so in anthropologist studies now, they will tell you that first stock, the African stock being first, is the Homo habilis or the Homo naledi. Okay, so then you look at the Asian, right? The Dravidians, the Asians, you see that they also have dark skin. People call them black. But the difference between the two, the original Negroids, is the hair, or what they is really fur, because only Nagarus have hair, because every race has a unique trait. And for us, that was our woolly hair. That's why in the 60s, you see a lot of people were wearing the afros, and it's kind of coming back. When they say afro, we call it a natural 9 ether, because it curls in the number 9 and it grows out of your hair in the follicles, right? So that would be the Dravidians. But the Dravidians or the Asian, they have 6 ether hair. But then in terms of ether, you have textures of hair. Why is hair important? Because it's your antenna, it's how you receive information, like an aerial from a TV, right? This ties into the Samson story in the Bible and why his hair was so important and so forth, right? So the Dravidians will be like your 7, 8 ethers, right? Then when you hear the word Asian, you're hearing Caucasian comes from the Asian, because now you have the root race, the Nagaru, 9 ether hair, woolly hair. Then you have the Dravidian or the Asian that comes out of the original, but it's still dark skin, just the hair is different. Then and they will be referred to as the Denisovan and the Homo florensis by anthropologists. Then from them you hear the word Caucasian, meaning that the Caucasian is taken from the Asian, and you have 6 ether, which will be referring to the female, because the female has an advantage over the males because she carries the mitochondrial DNA. The male will be 5 ether, okay? And the ethers can go lower as well. So from 1 ether to 9 ether is going up. Going the other direction, you're going from 1 deeper down to 0, as in then -1, -2, going to the lower levels where you have other types of beings that exist, like ghouls and demons and other beings that exist on lower vibrational frequencies, where people get affected by their nightmares and all kind of stuff. So when you say, can I explain the differences? You have hair textures where you have 9 ether hair, and that could be even within one. Well, we as Nagarus are the only ones with hair, so that within the Nagaru or the Negroid race, there's levels of ether which will go from 9 to 8 to 7 to 6, right? And then in terms of realms, you also have ethers. So when you're vibrating on lower vibrations or frequencies, which I was giving you with the 1, 2, 3 ABC or Nasut, Malakut, Lahut, when you're very dense or things are slow in vibration, they're in what we call the physical realm. That's the lowest one, or the material plane, as people will refer to it. So even within the realms, you still have planes. The planes are like levels of vibration. the way I explain it to kind of make it make sense is that you can have colors, right? So again, the colors, you have root colors, which is what the yellow, red and blue, which the mixture of them gives you, the combination of mixtures will give you other colors. But these are called primary colors, again, because they're the three foundations. So even when we were talking about the three sons of risk, that is the colors, and that's where they come from for the sons that were known in ancient Egypt, where you have, most people are familiar with the three positions of the sun. So what they will say, the rising, the zenith, or the middle, and then what they call setting. And then it goes through what they call the underworld. So you have Atum, Atun, Amun, and then Anun will be that when it's going through the underworld. I'm touching on lots of different things, and for people who are familiar with the different aspects of what I'm referring to will see what I'm saying. But in terms of vibrating higher, you're gonna go through the different vibrations or levels. So with a color, for example, you can have a yellow, but there will be millions and millions of variations of yellow, millions and millions of variations of blue, millions and millions of variations of, say, red. So going from 1 to 9, you elevate mentally, physically, spiritually to the different realms based on your being as you grow. All right. So can you explain the differences between 9 ethers, 8 ethers, 7 ethers, and 6 ethers? Yeah, I think I've covered it. Again, join our Telegram group so you can continue the learning if you would like to get more information on the question and so on. All right. Okay. Who else? Rahul, back to all the newcomers, all those people joining. Please like, share, subscribe. Oh, Maramir. Okay, Rahul back. I'm excited to be here, Saken for president. You're funny. King, sorry, yeah, please, just a reflection. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's always exciting to come and share Wu-Sabat, and share the master's words with everyone. Yeah, so thank you for that. We don't run for those positions though, because yeah, we don't deal with the politics. Okay, unless it's in, excuse me, in our culture, in our world. Okay, let's see. So, yep, so Ken, you kind of answered my question. It was, why is the unknown not known? Okay, that's actually interesting, Maramir, because it's only not known to those who don't know. And so this is why when people are at different levels in terms of their development, flowers don't all, blossom at the same time. And this is why we have to take care how we address and deal with people, because sometimes we do let our ego get the better of us. And part of development and learning is to be able to suppress that ego, because sometimes people feel like because they have a lot of knowledge, they can speak to other people a certain way. And there is a level, it's not just knowing knowledge, it's also having that compassionate, the ashuk we talk about in terms of divine love, which means you have to be emotionally aware and also, be mindful and be able to be caring and loving in terms of how you deliver and execute the knowledge, because it can become a competition with a lot of people. We're not in competition with each other. And this is why when you're teaching people the truth, they just want to say, but I have, my Bible says this, and I know this, and I know that. It's like, at the end of the day, it's not a competition. The truth is the truth. Everyone should have access to the truth. And that's the bottom line. It's like, if you accept it, you accept it. If you don't, you don't. But yeah, to answer that question, so we would say there are people who know, there are people who don't know, and there are people who don't know they don't know. And if they don't know, they don't know. How can you then kind of hold them responsible for something they don't know? So another question that we get a lot is, what if people pass before they discovered Wu-Sabat? And we're like, well, it's gonna be based on what you did know, right? You can't be judged on something you didn't know. So how were you as a person? How did you treat people? You know, this is all in your matrix. How did you deal with another fellow being? You know, were you kind? Were you helpful? Were you selfish? Were you unhelpful? So sometimes it goes beyond the books and the words. It's your actions and your intentions that really matter, because people can pick up on the vibration and the energy of, you know, what you're actually giving off, even though you may be sounding really heavy, but at the end of the day, it's that a shook. All right. So yeah, that's a great question. And people who don't know, if they admit they don't know, that's a great place to be, because they're willing to learn. And you have to be like a baby again, because you've been given misinformation and distorted information for so long that, you know, you can stop trusting, because you're like, I went down that road and I was let down. I went down that road and I was let down. So when you, it's also a good experience, because when you feel something is wrong many times, when you actually get to the point where it feels right and it's right, you're going to know the difference. All right. So it's also a great experience to go through this, because most of us went through that walk of life where we were born into maybe Christianity. We had lots of questions. We couldn't get our questions answered. And we might say, okay, we're going to go and become a Muslim. We go in that direction. Again, we get to a point where we see a lot of things that don't sit well. Our questions can't be answered. And you can keep doing that, going from one to the next for years, going round in circles. And you just get to a point where you might be like, I don't want to do any of it anymore. I just go by myself, because at least I can trust myself. At least I can, you know what I mean, know that what I feel is real. And so then when you come across Wu-Sabat, some people will wrestle it. Some people, they just know straight away, it resonates. Their vibration is already aligned and they just know it's truth. Some try to run away from it, hide from it, and it keeps coming back around until one day they like, if it's for you and it's meant to be in this cycle, you can't run away from it. It's going to keep knocking on your door. And then, you know, some people will be like, I'm so glad I actually, you know, tried again. It's like relationships, you know, you can have bad relationships or failed relationships. Well, I wouldn't say bad, because you'd still learn from everyone, and then you don't give up and say, you know, there's no one else out there in the world that is true. And then when you find that person, you're happy that, you know, you gave them a chance. You didn't just put them all in the same boat. All right. Okay, let's go on to the next question. 9 Mind TV, Rahubat Musa, here from the US. We met in Croydon at Nashat. Glad to see the great works of the channel. Okay, Rahubat, you just said 9 Mind TV, so I hope you're helping to spread Wu-Sabat. Okay, you do have a question. I have a question pertaining to DNA, part of our discussion in regards to having more access to information. Is this broken down in regards to blood types amongst us? Yes, it is. See, knowledge, because when you say information is actually limited, because when you look at the word in, as I was saying at the beginning, it's like you're inside something. So there's a limit or a ceiling. You're inside information. You're insane. You're, I'm trying to think of more words with the word in. But when you come out, you go to out formation, because if you're limited to the planet and you think everything is within or inside this planet, then you don't have the open mind to think of things outside of the planet, hence the whole extraterrestrial thing. So we receive information which becomes information when it's inside us or in our head, right? Because we have our own hard drive that we store and process information that we're receiving. And so information teaches us that there is more. Like, how do we get our blood types? This is what I was saying about that whole story of triplets, where people have different DNA, people have different complexions, different hair textures, different blood types, and the blood types relate to where you come from or who you're made up from. So this is why I say a lot of the extraterrestrial beings, they're related by blood, and they have the RH negative, blood type. And because of the mixtures now throughout the world with the different races, the root races mixing up and creating what we call subraces and hybrids, now people have different blood types. And it's important to know when we say your anatomy, in terms of your entire, like your brain, your liver, your lungs, your heart, your blood, your, just everything about your being you're supposed to master and learn. And this is where some people, they don't take that time to check out the compatibility between two people in terms of, say, blood types, and people have an offspring, and that being will suffer from sickle cell, for example, if they didn't take the time to check their blood types. So yes, the question of, it's all about the blood, and the blood is why even in the scriptures there's a lot of mentioning about blood. The book of Numbers, for example, in the Bible is just about keeping records of who belongs to who and who begot who, and that bloodline. So you can actually trace the bloodline of the Adamites, because it tells you from Adam all the way. We've done it, it's in our scrolls. And so the extraterrestrials that wanted specific bloods, they would tell you to sacrifice and to spread blood and sprinkle blood over the altars, and they get excited by the blood because the life is in the blood. And when people are unalived in a particular way, the adrenaline and everything causes that blood to behave or be in a certain state, and they find that they like that as a source of food. So this is the whole food for the gods doctrine. So yeah, people in prominent positions, royal families, etc., they like to keep their bloodline pure. But of course, our bloodline being the best, the first, because this is why people mix with us, because some people didn't have the ability to keloid, all right? And if they cut themselves, for example, they would bleed to death. And so blood was a major factor in what people call the slave trade, which we know was a kidnapping. And it goes into a lot in terms of, the slavery and what it was for. And, there's like the War of Roses, for example, if you study that, going into the Yorks and the Lancasters when they were fighting, because it ties into this being hemophiliacs who, they needed certain blood to survive. This goes into a lot to do with what we call the zombies and the zombie apocalypse, and what we call Dracula, and these beings that they subsist off of the blood, particular types of blood, you see. So it's a big range of things relating to your question about blood. But yes, the blood types are very, very important. All right. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Truth Magnificent. See, wise, intelligent. Is it possible we can have a breakdown of Arabic, Mesopotamian, Russian, and East Asian symbolism correlating any way with Latin and American symbolism? Yeah, of course. I mean, that's we have this book scroll called the language of time, because in order to have symbols, you have to go back to the origins of language, because language evolved. Well, in fact, it was imported here. As I was saying, other things were imported here from other star systems and other planets, and it evolved. So when you look and find the oldest kind of like findings and tablets, you find something called the Sabian plate, which kind of tie into this language. This language of time is dealing with our language, Misbatia, which is known by many as Nuapic or Sabaic, and this is how language evolves. So let me just read some of it. The ancient Mukmatu Egyptians illustrated this concept by protecting your sacred name in a cartouche, which we call a shanash. That is why they use what was called a big name, throne name, or a known name, and a little name or hidden name whispered into the ear. So of course, language started from tones. So we explained that the dolphin was given the genes in a capsule to be transported here and put into the waters, and that capsule dissolved to form the blueprint or black print of where cells and genes came about, and then life evolved from the waters onto land. I'm saying that because the dolphins, they communicate with something called echolocation, which is dealing with tone vibrations, and that's how they communicate. And you look at the Sans people, or even people from Ghana, they speak with that click or that tone was how tones eventually evolved. And I'll come back to this because it's very important as we have a live caller. Greetings, caller, Rahubat. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Rahubat Saken.
What's your question?
Can you hear me?
Tua, loud and clear.
Okay. I've got two questions.
Tua, what's your name?
All right. The first one, just relating to, so the Etherians, the Panatharu, and the Riskians. So I'm just trying to get a clear understanding on the differences between the three.
Okay.
So from what I understand so far is that the Etherians they're more etheric beings, and they don't obviously occupy physical forms. And the Riskians are also etheric, and when it comes to the Panatharu, they can be etheric and they can be physical. Is that correct?
Tua. So who's calling? What's your name?
My name's Sean, calling from London.
Okay. Yeah. Partly correct. So if we look at it like an Ethereum would be the highest. It's like I was saying, like you're trying to get to the highest. It's like, let's say you start off in the nursery, then you go to primary school, secondary school, college, and then you can keep going higher to like higher education, become a master's, a professor, whatever. Let's just say there's a hierarchy. The highest you can get to is to be a pure energy being known as an Ethereum. But they're different. They're Ethereans at different stages, meaning that there's some Ethereans that. Okay, this is a good example to explain it. Like if you did martial arts, let's say black belt is the highest you can get. But then when you get a black belt, there are different dans. You follow? So there could be a number of people that say, yeah, they've got a black belt. but there's still going to be those who have higher dans in terms of their belt. So when you're saying an Etherean, some Ethereans, they have leave to be able to come and go as they please, as in they can slow down their vibration. Because remember, I was saying that the lower vibrations are slow, and that's when things are more dense, when you're looking at density. And then as you're going up, the higher the vibration, the faster the vibration, the higher you're kind of going to becoming a pure energy being. But some of these Ethereans, they can come down, so they can literally manipulate their body, and they have certain abilities, like they can literally think of a place and move there instantly with the things they want to take with them, and move there with those things. So you have Ethereans that can slow their vibration and come back down into the physical and take on a physical form, and then they can go back at will and go the other way. And when you're that type of a being, you've mastered things like the things we're meant to master in the lower planes, like astral projection, coming out of our body at will and coming back in, and do you know what I mean, love and compassion and all that stuff we're meant to master in the lower vibration, so we can move to the next and to the next. So a spiritual master is someone that has mastered both the spiritual realm as well as the physical, right? As in Dr. York Parnababianun being an Etherean, being a Riskian. Now, when you say a Riskian, I read at the beginning in the introduction of the Black Book that Risk is a planet. So just like Earth is a planet, you can call everyone on the planet an Earthling, right? If you live on Risk, you can be called a Riskian. But there are different types of people that live on the planet, different races, as well as different beings that live on Risk. So on Risk, you have 3 continents: Danoria, Cosmusta, and what's the other one? I said it before. Danoria, Risk, Cosmusta, and I can't remember. I always do that. If I say it in a particular order, I always forget the third one. But I'm gonna. So anyway, the third one, when you say the Parnatharu, you have beings that are like assigned positions or tasks, yeah. And when you say Parnatharu, you're saying the overseers. So these are beings that have been assigned and given that job to do, to oversee. Which, as you also said yourself, is that a pure Etherean can be a being living on Risk, and can also be a being that has been given the position as an overseer. You follow?
Got you.
Yeah, so the other one was Zorantu that I missed out. So you got Zorantu, Danuria, and Kuzmusta, which are the 3 different continents. And as he was saying, when these beings, the being that people call the devil, for example, that's Tarnosh. When their star system had a problem and they were looking for refuge somewhere, just like now when on Earth, there are wars going on in certain places, and people, that you hear about the boats, people are trying to escape and come to, say, the UK or somewhere to get rescues from. And they might say, okay, we're going to put you guys, they'll create a place like a hotel or something and say, you're going to be put there and you can live, and, we'll help you out, give you food, whatever, until, they decide what they want to do. Now, he was put on this continent called Danuria, and after a while, imagine people come here, they're given refuge, and then they decide, you know what, we're going to take over. We now want this place for ourselves. And then that's kind of what happened. And then he got defeated, whatever. And later on, his son, this is where in the Quran, his son is called Iblis. And Iblis, most names are describing an incident or an action that took place. The word Iblis means rebellious one, because what they tried to do is reform him, like they tried to do with his father, and it didn't work, and he rebelled, and then he took people with him who supported or were also in agreement with his disagreeableness, and they were then cast down here. What people know as the 200 fallen angels, etc. And that's what happened. And they go from place to place trying to take over or conquer or, do you know what I mean, subject beings under their control with their rules, you know. And so, yeah, that's, so I hope that is clear for you in terms of the three differences between Etherians, Riskians, and the Natharu.
Tahuat. Yeah.
And
And then that was
Takapiafu.
just
Yeah.
because you mentioned the point about the Panatharu, and they have certain assignments, and that just kind of brought up something that I remember watching on Young Elder TV, and because I know he speaks about a lot of stuff that the master teacher talks about as well. And
Yeah.
then, so I remember watching one of the videos that he put out on Panatharu and how they had come at a point in time recently and had visited, I think it was government officials, and then they were describing these extraterrestrials that had come by way of craft, and that they were dark skinned and they resembled Africans essentially. Was that true, or do you know? To your knowledge,
You have
is that
to ask
something
Young
that
Elder about that, because, like I said, a lot of people read the Master's books, and some of the books, like the Holy Tablets, a lot of people kind of dwell on that. Not to say it's not good information, but it has expired in terms of it was for a particular day and time. It's still useful information, but you have to really update yourself onto what we know as the hereafter doctrine, which deals with the Pataruk, Master's secrets, the actual facts, and that's where you're going to get the latest information. And of course, we get information that's updated. So if people are teaching or talking stuff that we are not teaching, then you really have to ask them about it, because we're not here to like answer or talk about other people, but in terms of what they're teaching, what that doesn't align with what we're being given by Partner Babyanun. You see?
Got you.
All right.
Tawa.
And Takafirafu.
Yeah, just my last question would be just on the religious books. So let's say the Quran, for example.
Yeah.
And I believe it was revealed to Muhammad by the Neter. If would I be correct by saying that?
Well, again, it depends where your source of information is coming from and where you're getting that information. But ultimately, like we say, they don't have any original books. This is why the Holy Tablets was the conclusion of religion, in terms of it expressed clearly what those books were trying to express, i.e. the Bible, the Quran, Old Testament, New Testament, everything they were trying to express, but they didn't have the correct information, was clarified and cleared up in the Holy Tablets. So in that sense, the information they were teaching and giving you, like when you start to go into the details of it, you will see, like, for example, again, distortion. Like, for example, they will tell you that the angel Gabriel, or they say Jibril, was the one that appeared to Muhammad and was giving him and revealing this information. When you probe further, you're going to find out that what they're referring to and calling an angel was one of these beings that was relaying the information. Like, a lot of that information was coming from Tahuti, you see. So yeah, but the way it's conveyed as an angel, you start to think spookism, because you're thinking angels are people with wings, and but it's a person, you see. So
Got you.
without going into too much of that, because at the end of the day, we're trying to move away from
Of
these
course.
books, you know what I'm saying, and not stay and
Of
dwell
course,
on
of
them.
course.
Yeah.
Because it was like the only reason why I asked that question was because I was just thinking in like a logical sense. Okay, if it was revealed to Muhammad by the Neteru, then who was responsible for the mixing of the different stories? You know, like the Anunnaki stories and the
Yeah.
ancient Egyptian stories. Would it have been them that would have caused that
Well, this is what
confusion,
we're
or of course
saying. We're saying
would it have been by the hands of man?
hands of man, definitely. This is what we're saying, that all of the information in the monotheistic religions actually goes back to the Sumerian tablets, but the Sumerian tablets themselves coined stories from the ancient Tamarian tablets and information. So that's why we go back to Egypt. But when you get to Egypt, we go pre-dynastic Egypt and go back to the stars, to our ancestors who literally brought everything down to this planet, you see, and then different beings came afterwards, you see. So that's why if you want to make the strongest connection, you have to go back to the roots of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Tahuat, thank you.
you're welcome. And
Appreciate love,
Papa,
Sukan.
appreciate love. Okay, so I was just
Until
explaining.
next time.
Tua, until next time. Wadu. Yeah, I was explaining that how language evolved from tones by dolphins using, like echolocation and the beings coming out of the waters, and then you start to go into how language evolved, and the women spoke first. So let me just read that before we go into showing you some of because the question was about symbols. While in Africa, many thousands of years before it was visited by beings called Natharu, overseers, who gave the female, right? So I'm reading from the Language of Time, page 22. So while in Africa, many thousands of years before it was visited by beings called Natharu, overseers, who gave the Asha, female, a voice box and taught her to speak, right? The Ashaf Karadu, female children, spoke before Ayash, male children, and women speak more and much better than men. Women have a much larger vocabulary than men. Don't believe me, check it out. It has to do with her brain and the upward movement of the voice box and the FOXP2 gene that deals with speech. It is actually called forkhead box protein P2, commonly called FOXP2. This protein in humans is encoded by the FOXP2 gene, which is located on chromosome 7. When there is a disruption in this protein, individuals have a breakdown in speech. FOXP2 is required for proper brain and lung development, right? So it goes on. Planet did not, sorry, I went, the page is a bit messed up, so I should have gone from, what I should have read from to that bit I just read, is that the planet did not learn to speak until 10,000 on down to 6,000 years ago. They too were taught to speak by visitors called Anunnaki or Anakim, or the gods of the Bible and the Quran, where Adam was taught and given dominion named God's creation, and then it went on to that bit I just read. But as you can see, if I can show you this, right, you start to see the symbols. These symbols, okay, the ancient scripts, the heretic and the hieroglyphics of Egyptians, and even cuneiform script. Right, let me show you that one as well, because we're dealing with the symbols. Tell me when you got it, yeah? And one more. Okay, So when you look at the ancient scripts or the hieratic and the hieroglyphics of Egyptians and even cuneiform script used by the Sumerians can be seen reflected in Asian scripts, as well as they evolved from pictures or symbols to the simplified forms you see today. So you see that picture I held up, you see the Chinese, the silkworm, you see the Japanese, love, you see the Sanskrit, which is Om, right? So you see below, you see more variations of script formed found in different nationalities the world over. Pictures have been found in the deserts of Afafre Ka'a, Africa, besides those inscribed on temple and pyramids. Don't believe me? Go check it out. 59, so it shows you the Tamil, the Korean, the Sajiki, and goes on to the Demotic script, the hieratic, and all these have been found, right? The hieratic script on papyrus, the hieratic script on papyrus with a variation. 59,000 years ago, Zazastatu women spoke what was first taught to them by visitors from Sirius 58,000 years ago, and then she taught the men to speak. The Caucasian race of Adamites, strong number 119 and 132 on this planet, did not learn to speak until 10,000 on down to 6,000 years ago. You see, so going back to the original question, that's how you get the symbols that came from. Sorry, my book is a little bit out of order because the pages have come apart. But yeah, so that's how the symbols. So yeah, so you say, is it possible we can have a breakdown of Arabic, Mesopotamian, Russian, and East Asian symbolism correlating anyway with Latin and American symbolism? Language is the problem because when you're reading books today, for example, we go from the Arabic, which is the youngest of the religions, being 1400 years ago. People that don't know any better will tell you, this is the word of Allah, this is the original language, it's never been tampered with. And then you go and do your research and do the studies and you find out that the Quran of today is not the same Quran that was in the original script of the Quraysh, which was given to Muhammad and his tribe. And there are different types of Arabic, there are different scripts. The Mali script, you have the Kufic script, then you have the fact that a lot of people that are speaking Arabic today are not speaking the same Arabic, they're speaking a dialect from their area. So Urdu, for example, will be different from Pakistan. Like there's different Pakistani scripts and dialects. So they will speak their version that's been copied and translated for them, not the original Arabic. So going backwards now from 1400 years with the Arabic, because even they will tell you that the Quran was destroyed, you know, when you look at the history with Uthman and then the split between the successors in terms of, you know, Abu Bakr and then going into Ali, who should have been the rightful successor. Then it goes on to the companions and the hadiths, which a hadith is like the companions memorized, you know, the Quran, and for years later they tried to put it back together, and there's like a system of Arabic with the vowels that are added, tamabota, etc., etc. But that's, you have to do your research and study. So yes, that's Arabic. You go to the 2000 years ago, which is the New Testament, you're dealing with the Latin and the Greek, and again, different scripts, different versions. Then you go to the Hebrew, same thing. And then ultimately you'll say, all of these go back to the Sumerian or the Anunnaki tablets. Then you go backwards to the ancient Egyptian with the hieroglyphs. And these two are the oldest in terms of scripts, but the scripts have a spoken language to it, which most didn't know that it was our language of Sabat, Wu-Nuwapu Mispatia, known as Nepthuhim in the Bible, which deals with Napata and that region, you see. So that question in terms of how it all links up, you have to be able to connect the dots all the way from how you've ended up with English, which is a dialect of many different, pieces of language from like German, Yiddish, French, etc. So yeah, it does tie into the symbolism that you have all throughout. So the sun is a symbol that is used right throughout, but it ends up back into Egypt in Heliopolis, and to what I said before, as in Atum, Atun, Amun. And you see the sun in everything, all the way to the symbolism of the logos of many of the companies today that they use the sun. All right, so yeah, that's a good question. All right, let's keep going. Also, how African symbolism and alphabet correlate with Latin, Arabic, Mesopotamia. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It goes all the way back to our stuff, as in the language. What is the name of the book Saken is reading? The Black Book. Most people refer to it as the Black Book, but it's known as the Sacred Records of Atum Re. It's this one. Yeah, unfortunately, some books are hard to get hold of at the moment, but we're working hard to make sure we get them back to you. So, Sacred Records of Atum Re, the Black Book. The reason people call it the Black Book is because, it goes into a lot, but there's another book called the Gold Book, which is referred to as the Sacred Tablets of Tamaray. Okay, so you hear people talk about the Gold Book, which is that one, but we won't go into that for today. Okay, what was the definition? Okay, take me somewhere. Okay, I don't know what I'm. What was the definition of extraterrestrial? I lost you guys for so long. I forgot some teaching at time. So glad. If you literally break down the word, because again, on the subject, we seem to be on the subject of language today. When you study English properly, you will find out that you have words that are put together to create other words. You have words that can read in one way, in one direction, and then read in another direction. Words that are what we call anagram. You can read it, the letters going one way is the same as going the other way. So for example, when you take a word like understanding, you can look at that word and see that it has under as one word, because there's a word under, and you have a word stand or stand in, which is a doing. So in that word you can see understanding, and there are many words like that that have words put together, and then some words have two words and then one of the words is jumbled up so it can be read like when I did the example of Christians the word Christian being antichrist. You can see Christ, and when you see the anti, when you read that other half of the words are jumbled up to give you anti. And this is something that people will not like to hear if they're Christian, because to them antichrist means to go against Christ, which is what happened when you look at the story of Paul, the 13th self-appointed disciple, who basically most modern Christians have been kind of like hoodwinked by him, claiming to be one of the disciples and writing the books, and everybody quotes Paul, and the whole kind of like Pope John Paul, the whole kind of Catholic system kind of came out of Peter and Paul, but that's another different story. But the point I'm making is that when you look at the words extraterrestrial, in that you can break it down with the word extra, terra or terrestrial or terrain, and then it's put together. And so when we're saying extra, what's the word breakdown for the word extra? Like if you said understanding, what does the word under mean? The word under would be to be below something. Yeah. So extraterrestrial is literally talking about things that are extra to the terrain or the terrestrial plane. And this planet at one point was also known as Terra, spelled Terra. So that's where the word comes from when you say extra, Terra, astral, which astral again, dealing with when you're coming from outside, and you say the celestial when you're dealing with heaven and up and above. So an extraterrestrial is anything that is extra, that's come from outside in. Okay, that's how we break it down. So I hope that helps you. So that's why the word extraterrestrial is broken down as, so it could be a meteorite, it could be what they refer to as panspermia, which means that bacteria come by way of meteorites or other bodies that are coming from other star systems or from outside the earth, okay, that bring life to this planet. All right, cool, let's keep going. Where are we? Okay, what is the next? Okay, cover that. You got a voice one? All right, let's go for that. Got it?
Rahubat Seken, Rahubat Moisa,
Rahubat.
Anoki Terry Jama, Tehuti Aken Reye, Mane Zambia. So I have just two quick questions. The first question is regarding the pineal gland or the third eye. I've read, I don't remember the exact scroll above from the master teacher where he was explaining that the Mukasu deliberately contaminated our food, water, environment, and other means just to calcify and block the pineal gland, thereby preventing us from accessing its full potential. So my question regarding that is, what are some of the spiritual practices or other things we can do to help decalcify the pineal gland? And then the other question is regarding the skin suit. I understand from the teachings that once we transition, the skin suit remains. And then I've heard you mention cremation is the best method of disposing the skin suit. So in a case where the body is buried and not cremated, are there spiritual consequences or delays in elevation due to the lingering DNA, especially because the DNA is still be active in the bone marrow? So how best can one spiritually detached from their physical form after transitioning into higher realms so that they are no longer attached to the physical skin suits? Ashok. Those are my two questions.
Okay. What's the first question? Yeah, when people
Rahubat Seken,
Yeah.
Rahubat Moisa, Anoki Terry Jama, Tehuti Aken Reye, Mane Zambia. So I have just two quick questions. The first question is regarding the pineal gland or the third eye. I've read, I don't remember the exact scroll above from the master
Oh, yeah,
teacher
that
where he
was
was
it, yeah.
explaining.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, because people say quick questions and then like you have to wait for the. But yeah, the first question about the pineal gland and the reading, I think is the atomic, if I'm not mistaken. So it's either the atomic or the seed. Is the reading you're referring to, where the master teacher is explaining about the calcification of the pineal gland. You can also find that in the Man from Planet Risk book, and I think the Science of Healing, where he shows a diagram of an open eye and a closed eye, Some beings are limited by design not to access the higher informational, higher realms. But in terms of the question you're asking, you have to do the reverse. So things like fluoride. Fluoride is one of the tools that is used to calcify the pineal gland and to stop it from opening, because remember that these beings that want to control and subdue people, they do it by you not waking up. This is what the whole story in the Bible, in terms of the tree, the one that Eve supposedly ate from, to open her eyes. And when you're reading that without like knowledge now in mind, you don't even consider the fact that what eye are they talking about, because they don't say, they just open up. The eyes were open when they ate the fruit. But as we pointed out many times, they were walking around to see the tree, to see the so-called serpent, to see that it was beautiful. So it's clearly not talking about these eyes, but another eye. I think the reading is the seed, where the master talks about the pineal gland, and that fluoride is one of the ways they put it in water to calcify and to block you from opening. So to answer the question, you just got to, for example, people don't realize they will use toothpaste that has fluoride in it. So you've got to start doing things like eating the right diets, avoiding certain things that agitate your inner being, certain stimulants, like coffee, and there are many things that agitate and that are stimulants, even, alcohol, drugs, nicotine. There are many things that, although people may use them as a form of recreation, they actually wreck creation. So yes, you have to basically start to eat right, rest, the meditation, all the spiritual practices help to raise your vibration to a point where you then, and it's not just one, because when you're looking at, people talk about the chakras, and it's not just one in isolation. It's almost like you have to be able to activate them and get them working. It's like they're there, but if they're not activated, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And then once they are activated, one at a time, it's like, you have to start with the root chakra, because the one at the bottom is the one that deals with a lot of the carnal desires and the lusts and the things that the luster. Because when we say lust can be many things, so you have to deal with that one, conquer that, and then you move on to the next and the next, and then there's a way you can align them all into one at the top, which is the root, the highest one. But in the Eastern religions, they teach you about 7, because this ties into the 7 ethers, or the 7 and 8 of the Asian stock. But we have 2 more that go above. So it's like being able to bring them all together. And in Islam, they call it the what do they call it? They don't like to talk about it. They call it like what's the term they use? The evil eye. They refer to it as the evil eye. And so when they see like depictions of maybe like beings, Hindu beings with the third eye open, they look at it like an evil eye. So they do acknowledge that the third eye exists, but they just refer to it as the evil eye. Just like people who have been trained to think that Egyptians are pagans, when they see certain symbols that you wear, like the Eye of Horus, for example, which again is a depiction of that, the third eye, or the pineal gland opening. And you can read a lot of that in, we have the Gospel of Yanun on the Sacred Feminine. Let me see if I've got it here. That goes into that as well. I don't think I've got it right here. But yeah, seek out that book. But yeah, that's how you will do it. You basically start to clean up yourself inside out, change your lifestyle, stop eating things with fluoride or using toothpaste with fluoride, you know, drink water, stop all the stimulants, more meditation, more relaxation, more awareness, more mindfulness, all these things. We cover that also in our pocket-sized book that basically just summarizes a lot of information and sets you on a journey of conscious and spirituality fast-tracked. The second question was
Temukasu deliberately contaminated our food, water, environment, and other means just to calcify and block the pineal gland, thereby preventing us from accessing its full potential. So my question regarding that is, what are some of the spiritual practices or other things we can do to help decalcify the pineal gland? And then the other question is regarding the skin suit. I understand from the teachings that once we transition,
yeah,
the
I
skin
got it. Yeah, so the second question was about the skin suit and about cremation. Yes, in ancient times when we were in our own environment, we knew that there was no danger in terms of like organ harvesting, and so certain rituals were performed, and these rituals would transport your energy to where it's supposed to go. This is what many may know as the opening of the mouth ceremony in ancient Egypt, where elaborate ceremonies were, you know, enacted, and the soul and the energy of that being was pointed directly at Orion and Sirius, where they came from, and that energy was sent back there as an energetic being. So in this day and time, because we don't have control of our burial rites and ceremonies like embalming and preparing things in a specific way, we are cremating because it's a much simpler, quicker way to protect your being, because your essence is in the bone, as in the marrow, because the blood is produced in the marrow, right? The bone marrow. So when you're buried, it takes a long time for your body to decompose, and you're still connected to that skin suit energetically. So you have to basically burn it, and you'll see in Hinduism and other traditions they do the same, because once you release that energy into the realm, the spiritual realm, then you're not really attached to the physical realm as much, whilst, you know, you're actually on your journey to the higher realm. So that's what we do now, and it's recommended because, like you say, it can take years for your body to decompose from your hair, your nails, your bones, and on top of that, a lot of the times you're put into, you know, a casket that is very solid, and then you're put on the ground, and sometimes even cement is put on top. So it takes a long time for you to basically escape here. But I tell you something that Wu-Sabat does, which is to make you think again, right? In religion, they tell you that you have two places that you will go, right? Either you go to heaven or you go to hell. And everyone would like to think, and most people just say, their loved one has gone to heaven. And because everybody thinks everyone's good in it, and no one really wants to think about their loved one or somebody they care about going to hell, which is an unconfirmed place, by the way. But the thing is, when people bury people, they put a tombstone and they put a cross on top of it, which basically signifies that this person is no longer here. But yet people go to the tombstone to visit their loved ones. So either they're accepting that they're no longer here, i.e. they've gone to heaven or gone to hell. If they've gone to heaven, why do you go to the tombstone? They're not there. They go there and they talk to them, etc. So in that, a lot of people are admitting that their beings are still trapped here. They're still trapped here because they're still attached to the physical body, and some of them are quarantined here where they're not able to escape this realm, you know. So that in itself is an admittance that, you know, when you see churches and you see graveyards around the churches, they invoke these disembodied beings and souls that are still roaming the planet, and that's how people get possessed. And they call this, you know, especially in like Pentecostal churches and places like that, where they start getting possessed and they foam in the mouth, and then they start to speak what they call speaking in tongues, which is really a language called gibberish that comes about by the fusion of disembodied beings with a physical body. And that's why you get that discomfort of foaming and being thrown on the floor, etc. Then you have people who are just actors, because they say that's catching the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost, which is really what it is. Others just start, when somebody else starts, they start doing it, and they know they're not being genuine to themselves. It's just they don't want to appear like the other person is more spiritual than them, so they start doing the dancing, and then the whole place is, you know, having these fits, and then some are actually being possessed by these disembodied ghosts, and others are just faking the funk or acting. So another thing for you to think about. Okay, I'm trying to find where I was. What's going on with 99 chant? See a lot of posts. Oh yeah, somebody asked, that's the question I was about to ask about DNA. Do Caucasian, there you go. Do Caucasians have animal DNA? Yes, they do. And this is not even something that we come up with. You know, most of the things we teach, if you just go and do some research and study, you'll find that this is common information, you know, because they did the Human Genome Project, which was to trace everyone's DNA, and they found traces of DNA, the Homo porcine, Homo canine, and the Homo simian in their DNA. And that's, when we say porcine, we're dealing with the hog, or what people call the pig today, and then canine is dealing with what people call dogs today, who actually originate from wolves. And even in their story of Romulus and Remus, they tell you these were she-wolves and they were nursed, and, you know, go back and study that. So, and then the last one, the simian, is obviously dealing with what they say, the ape. Yes, so this is something scientifically proven. So yes, they do have animal DNA. Next question. Okay, the people are having a conversation. I'm catching up to all your videos. I am new here to your channel. Okay, BG, welcome on board. Yeah, each one teach one, share and let others know. And that's another thing we should all do, because sometimes something as simple as sharing, pressing the button to like, you know, people, I don't know if it's laziness, but people don't do it. And we know so many people are watching our videos, and, you know, they give us the feedback, but we look at the stats of how many actually then subscribe, share, like, and, you know, we could do better if we all did our piece of helping someone else to the truth. So please share, like, subscribe, etc., all that good stuff. I'm trying to find the next question. Okay, for response. And humans are of, okay. Jada NTT. Hi sir, I'm Raymond from Africa, precisely Cameroon. I'm addicted to weed. I want to know if there is any ritual or herb mixture I can make to cleanse weed from my body and stop for good. Do you know what? the highest and best thing you have is your willpower. And this is why people say, oh, I have willpower. I have willpower. The operative word is power. You have willpower to do whatever you want, in the sense of you can stop. You can rid yourself of any addiction you have, you know, and all you have to do is mentally, with full intentions, also asking your ancestors to help you, because a lot of the time these influences are from your personalities, you know, your 29 or less personalities that you have by way of your ancestors. And they are overwhelming, because some of these ancestors will do anything to experience that through you. So the first thing is your willpower to say, you know what, I'm going to overcome the urge and the influence, that the voices that's telling me to continue or to buy it or to build it or to put it in my mouth, right? Another thing you can do is substitute it for something healthy. So, for example, every time you have the urge to smoke, you eat an apple instead, right? Why apples? I didn't just pick that randomly. Apples have something called pectin, which is able to help you with cravings. So every time you feel like doing something disagreeable, like smoking a cigarette, or as in your case, you want to stop smoking weed, eat an apple. The apple is healthy, it's got nutrition, and it's going to help you with the craving. So just substitute it for something healthy, or even you can exercise. Like every time you have the urge, say to yourself, I've got to do 20 press-ups, and then do 20 press-ups instead. That is a healthy alternative to doing something that's going to be disagreeable to you. So do a positive thing, yeah? Do some breath exercises. Do something else that will take your mind from the addiction. And that applies to other addictions as well, not just weed. And just do it one day at a time. You know, the people try to look at the end goal, but not taking it a day at a time. So just do that one day, you do it, you're like, yeah. The next day you do it, you're like, yeah. And you can even increase your press-ups. Like say I'm gonna do 10 press-ups, then 20, then 30. So you're kind of subtly substituting something negative with something positive. And before you know it, it becomes second nature. You've just forgotten about it. And every time you're in a situation, it's like sometimes people get put in situations where, you know, if you go to that place, if you go with those people, if you visit that person, they may be the influence that's going to get you to do something you don't want to do. So don't go. Just say, no, I'm not coming. No is 2-letter word. You know, it's that easy to say no to things that you know are not going to be good for you. Well, I hope that helps you. And of course, then do the spiritual practices like the meditation, drinking more water, because you're talking about cleansing yourself. Fasting is good. All right. Okay, let's see. I believe beings of Earth are element components of this galaxy, although other galaxies have different elemental components, although similar. You started off saying, I believe. Your belief is your belief, and nothing wrong with that. But you're right in the sense of you have to be composed of the environment you're in. That's why we have this skin suit, because this skin suit in terms of aerodynamics is best in this environment. All right. So yes, beings will be composed of elements in the environment that they're in. So I'm just pointing out the word I believe, because we keep saying to people belief or believe is one of the technology words, because to believe something doesn't mean it's right or correct. It's just your belief. Rahubat from Barbados. Hopeful Hibiscus, Rahubat. Jesse, Rahubat, Rahubat. Cool Star. What does it say? I think it's meant to be holy tablets. Say Allah, best name to call upon. Yeah, in the school of religion, it would be Allah as the best name to call on. But if you go to other schools, you're going to have Anu being the best name to call on in the Sumerian. So, but this is the same being they're referring to as Allah, Anu, and his family, Enki, Enlil, and so forth. But the holy tablets, as we keep saying, has expired in terms of certain information that has now been upgraded, because if you actually read and study the whole tablets, it tells you it's written as it was received, okay? And then the chapter closes and we move on to more information. You cannot follow the guide or the person that brought you the holy tablets that a lot of people are so fascinated by, and then when he tells you, okay, it's time to move on, then you want to be stuck in the holy tablets. That means that you're not actually acknowledging or realizing that the person who gave it to you is the one that's taking it away in that sense and moving on. And this is what happens. People stop growing when they don't realize that it's a school of learning. So when you move from, say, Islam to something else, they don't want to leave Islam. Then the ones that are so caught up in Christianity, or when we were dealing with the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, when we move from that, some people don't want to let it go. So it's like, how far do you want to develop in terms of your being? Do you want to go to becoming a pure Etherean and have that ability as an Etherean to transcend, different matters or the levels of matter? All right, so so the next question is, within our solar system revolving around the sun, star, Earth is where habitability is as of now. That's not a question. There are many planets with people inhabiting them, so okay. Some people just like to give their opinions and what they believe and what they think. If you're new to Wu-Sabat, that's all good, but we want to deal with questions that people have to help them elevate and save their soul. All right, so it's about people asking questions. That's why we call it Ask Us Anything. Have you pressed the like button and shared this live yet? If you haven't, please do so. We can see most of you have, 74% of you. So we can still push. This is from Truth Magnificent. See Wise Intelligent. Are Earth animals more successful borrowing or building high? Question is not clear. Are Earth animals more successful borrowing or building high? Yeah, rephrase your question for clarity. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, let me keep going to questions. Yeah, of course. Remember, you can always do a one-to-one with myself. Just arrange that through OSM Vision, info@osmvision.co.uk. You can always arrange that. The dopamine makes you crave things. That's right. That feeling, that's from BG. So yeah, you can replace that with like exercise. But again, like with anything, some people leave one thing, like that's a really good point. Like I just said, exercise instead of the craving to go and and smoke the weed, right? But then some people will replace that addiction with exercising to the point where they become addicted to exercising because, as you just said, the dopamine and what you're getting from exercising can then also become an addiction where you see people every day they're in the gym. So there's a balance to everything. So you can even become addicted to something like exercising. Men, the testosterone, and it's like that feeling good, and it's like then when you don't have it, you just always want to be in the gym. So you get to a point where you see people walking around, they can't even move. They're just so like dense. Because remember, again, the more hard you are, the more dense you are. So you're like that vibration is now slowing down. So you can go from one extreme to the other. So it's important that you don't just replace one thing with another addiction, even though it's healthy. People get caught up, and then you got those people that start to take steroids because they want to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just becomes an addiction. So where it was a healthy thing to do, to be healthy and to exercise, it goes completely the other direction. Okay, I think we've almost covered all the questions. Like drug and alcohol addiction, any kind of, that's correct. What does it mean when 6 to 12 blue jays are in your yard, flying over your home or sitting on your car, as well as crows? Again, like people have all kinds of experiences, and we can't speak on that because if you're visited or beings come to you or you see, that's a personal experience, and there's you have to ask those beings, if you're actually in communication with them, like why are you here? What do you want? What do you want with me? Flying over your home or sitting on your car, as it could be anything. It could be, I'm not saying it is in your situation, but people can hallucinate as well. And but anyway, going high. We got a caller.
Hi.
Greetings, Rahubat. What's your name? Where you
Can
calling
you hear
from?
me?
Yes, loud and clear. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's your question, please?
My name is Gary. I'm calling from Montreal, Canada.
Hey, Gary, Rahubat.
Rahubat. I want to have your thoughts on the voodoo in Haiti.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Like, was it like bad or?
Everything. Okay, so everything has good and bad, and or we say agreeable and disagreeable. We have a part of that called good is evil, black magic, white magic is another one that goes into the question. And so it depends on the person and what they're doing with it and what they're actually doing. If there's any such form of blood sacrifice, animal sacrifice, or any type of sacrifice using physical things, then we don't subscribe to that. Okay? What people are calling miracles or magic, a lot of that is science. So knowing what you're doing. So the word magic actually comes from magi, which kind of goes into the beings that knew the sciences of things. So in ancient Egypt, this is where the science of alchemy was taught. And it's the way you can transform things from one state to the other. And so what people are calling voodoo or obia and these terms, some people are using science in a negative way and some are doing it in a positive way to help. And the positive way is you being able to realize the power you have to be able to do many things. You can heal, you can use the power of thought and your ancestors as well. You can invoke your ancestors to help you do things. So it all depends on the person, what they're doing. And a lot of what people are looking at as voodoo today is invoking negative beings. It's invoking some of these, as I was saying, disembodied beings that are roaming around, and they will offer you things, but ultimately there's a price to pay, and that's why they will request for these sacrifices, and a lock of hair or an animal, or someone taking a part of somebody's DNA, etc., etc. So yeah, it would have to be based on the situation, the circumstance, and what is being done for us to actually say it's something good or bad. You can't just, with anything, we can't just generalize and put everything in one, do you know what I mean? Like paint everything with the same brush. So it all depends on who's doing it, why they're doing it, and what methods they're doing, and what the results are. So we do have those two pataraks that I mentioned, black magic, white magic, and what's the other one I mentioned?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't read those, seek those out. I'm trying to see if I can find them.
And I want to know too, my friend, how do rocks have souls? Because you say like everything have a soul, right?
No, you're misquoting me. This is why it's important to study. I've never said rocks have soul. I said they have spirits. Everything has a spirit.
Sorry.
Yeah. Not souls. That's why the point I was making is that rocks don't have souls, because people that don't know the difference between a spirit and a soul, they think is one and the same thing, and they would say two different words but think is the same thing. So to differentiate the difference between the two is why I expressed that rocks, animals, trees are alive and they have a spirit, but they do not have a soul. Is that clear?
Yeah, but can you like explain the difference between the two?
Of course. If you see a rock cannot move and dance and cry and have emotions, can it?
Okay.
So the difference is that connection, that emotional you to feel and be able to, as I said, like I use dancing because music and vibrations and tones and the ability to be able to move in rhythm is what having soul is. This is why we were distinguished and referred to as soul people, and we had soul music and soul food, and everything relating to us was with soul, because we had that ability to move with the rhythm of life, you see. So that's the differentiation between something having a spirit, because it's vibration. Everything oscillates. Everything is made up of atoms that are vibrating, and atoms, when you go to the center of atoms, when you go deeper and deeper, it's a energy. It's like a block of energy, as opposed to people looking at it from the way it's depicted with like a proton and a neutron and the electrons and stuff like that. That's just to give you an idea of what's going on, but really at the center of that is energy. All right.
Okay. I have another question too.
Go ahead.
Who was first, like the Sumerians or the Egyptians?
The Egyptians.
Okay. Okay. And do you know about the Taínos?
The what? The what? Sorry?
What?
I didn't hear what you said. The Taínos. What is that?
Yes.
So what is it?
It's like an ancient tribe that was in Haiti.
How do you spell it?
Tainos. Tahinos.
T-A-I
Nos.
N-O-O-S. Oh, Tainos. Yeah, I see it. I don't know much about them. I have to do some research on that. But what I mean, it's like just asking the question. What's the Is there a correlation or relation, or what does it relate to?
Oh,
Where's the reference of why?
no. It was just to know if you had like thoughts about it, like some information about it.
Okay. No, not anything in our doctrine that I've come across, but it's just saying that there were indigenous people, Europe I'm just googling it as you speak. Yeah, I'll have to do a bit more research into it, but no, I don't really. But it's like just asking me, do you know information about any tribe on the planet? I would have to do, unless there's a significance or relevance to something, then I would have to look into it. But what I'm getting here is saying the indigenous people inhabiting the greater Antilles and the northern present day Cuba and Jamaica, Hispanics. But yeah, I don't have anything significant about them, but I will look into it if you would like me to.
Oh, okay, it's okay. Mm-hmm. And why you say like some book is outdated information?
Because things evolve and change. It's like what people knew 20 years ago. Okay, right now you have a phone, right? A smartphone.
Yeah.
So why do we have a new phone now, but we started off with phones that were not smart? Because the technology increases and improves and evolves, and you get to have more functions with more functionality of what you can now do with this phone of today than the one before. So if you read books that are outdated, they're books that might be telling you that the earth is flat back, a long time ago. And with scientific discovery and more information, they'll find out that, okay, it's not. Or like they were giving you a particular type of prescription or medication for something back, years ago that doesn't work. And now you've found a better cure that actually works. So books, information changes all the time based on new discoveries and clarity in terms of technology being able to make things more possible. So yeah, information, back in the day they used to burn people, calling them witches because they had certain abilities, so things change. So you have to know that the one thing that's constant is change, and if you're not changing, you're dead, because you're remaining stagnant. There's new discoveries all the time. Does that make sense?
Okay, that's it for me, Second. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. There's a question from April, if that's the next question. Yeah, is the sickle trait related to any of the being you have taught us about? Well, it's related in the sense of the genetics of the blood type. So with the mixing, a lot of the issues we have, as I was saying before, is foreign, because the blood or the mixture between the Europeans and the Adamites into Nagaru and extraterrestrials coming here is how we got the negative blood types. Because prior to that, like prior to the raping and the mixing and stuff like that, there were only pure beings, as in the Pataites, in what we refer to as the green zone, known as Nupu. And then it's only when these mixtures came in by way of foreign invaders, there was a separation where a zone was created called Zupu, which was the red zone, to contain and quarantine beings there. Excuse me. So even with when you read, say, the books of Leviticus, read the whole book, but if you read like Leviticus 13 and so forth, it explains about how leprosy was, rampant, and they had to be quarantined. And then you read it, the priest had to tell you who was clean from that. It's like what happened with, say, the COVID pandemic, where people had to be, segregated and quarantined, and then if you didn't have it, you would be okay. If you did, you had to stay in particular areas. So these types of things were going on. So yes, the blood mixtures is how a lot of the diseases and things came about, because as we just explained, some beings mixed with animals and produced, like for example, syphilis and gonorrhea, and these diseases came by way of the mixture with animals, with the practice of bestiality, and then people then mix that with other people. Even when you look at like mad cow disease and certain things that in more recent time is because people were catching these things from the meat they were eating or mixing with animals, so yes, you're right that it is related to beings. Okay, let's keep going. Someone, who's that? JT3. Where do Caucasian people come from? When we say Caucasian people, a lot of times people generalize and put everybody in one category. What you're calling Caucasians are actually specific species that came from the Caucasus Mountains. That's where the word Caucasian come from. But then you have different species. Not everyone that you might be calling a Caucasian is the same. Just like even what people call black people, they're different species. There are 9 different species of Negaru or Negroid. And so when you look at, you've got Adamites. Adamites are specific, that came about like 6,000 years ago. But prior to that, you had the Fulgorods, and you have, when we say Vikings, we're saying 6 kings or 6 clans, where you get like the different types. You've got like the Nordics, you got German, you got Sweden. They're different types of people. So you can't just group everyone, but generally the ones we say Caucasians, you're talking about beings that came from the Caspian Sea, from the Caucasus Mountains, okay? So it's important to realize that. Can't put everybody in one, and there's been so much mixture that just looking at a person's skin suit, it's not going to tell you what they're really composed of. It's more about their DNA. Because you can look at a Caucasian that has dark eyes, dark hair, that's showing you that they've been mixed with a Negroid, you see. So we call them subraces. And so yeah, on the planet today, you can look very, very black, and that doesn't mean your DNA is healthy or that you are more. We can't judge people based on just the way they look or the color of their skin. And this is where we have to transcend that whole racism thing, because there are actually no white people and there's no black people, and it's just a crazy thing that separates and divides people. It's really about your DNA, it's about your actions, and it's about your intentions. And you can find good people in all races, you can find bad people in all races, if you want to use those terms. All right. Rahubat, I just want to know about animals. Is it true that they used to talk? Well, that's why we question things like in the Bible, where they're telling you there was a talking snake. Till this day, there's never been any proof of a snake that can talk. Parrots can talk. We know that. They have the ability to say a few words. You see this all the time. So yes, the parrot, for example, has been proven to be able to talk, but not snakes and not other animals in terms of when you say talk. Earlier on, I mentioned about dolphins. When you say talk, there are forms of communication that they use, telepathy, as I was saying, tones, vibrations, frequencies. So you can communicate without talking. You see, so yes, in that sense, but not as in having a larynx and being able to talk. I read from that when the first people or women were able to talk from the language of time, it was an actual operation or a scientific experiment that took place for them to receive that FOX2P gene. That's how they were able to speak, and it was done by these higher extraterrestrials. So it was actually an operation that took place before they could speak. So yeah, communication and talking are kind of two separate things, because you can communicate mind to mind, which is telepathy, and without using words, but you can hear and feel and know what the communicator is saying to you. Hi, do you know anything about the kids in tunnels? That's a very broad and vague question. Is there an alternative? Rephrase that question. Where's the source of this information and where is it coming from? Which kids are we talking about? Which tunnels are we talking about? So that's for you, Nelly. Maria, is there an alternative hot drink to coffee, tea and hot chocolate alkaloids? Yes, there is. You can have decaffeinated stuff that is, you can have natural, you can make up your own hot drinks, like with, I don't want to say something because sometimes, you know, but there are natural things like oats and many things you can actually make hot drinks from. Even that cocoa is not really chocolate. Cocoa becomes chocolate when they add a lot of sugar and other stuff to it. We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try and get these last few questions through quickly. If not, you can ask your questions in the chat. To touch on the question about voodoo, if the Haitian defeated the European race in their country, why do they come over to America? Why do they come over to America? Why do who come over to America? The Haitians. Because people believe the lies or the dream, the American dream. More opportunities, they think they're going to have a better life, etc., etc. But people are moving around all across the world now, and the thing is, people actually think that the grass is green on the other side, right? But yeah, that question is not even that fully clear either. So, if this is life is an illusion, how do we get out? It's an illusion in the sense that the way you've been taught about it and what you think you see, like I gave the example of things appearing to be solid, but they're really held together by minute atoms. So how do you get out of it? You start to connect with the real, connect with the real you, the inner being, and learn the practices of how you tap into the real you. And this is what Wu-Sabat does with all the information. And you have to remember, yeah, kind of using that analogy I gave about the mobile phone and the smartphone. The phones are only as good as what now? The apps. So anything you want, you download an app, right? Somebody took the time to think about a function or something you would like to do to make your life easier, and they wrote it as in a program. They programmed it, and then you download it when you need it. So, for example, using the sat nav, right? Satellite navigation. That is helping people, because if you didn't know where you were going, you would get lost. Spend a lot of time trying to find where you're going, spend probably more fuel, gas. You might get frustrated. You might not even turn up because you've spent all the time trying to find where you're going as opposed to getting there on time. So an app is created, you download it because your phone is smart, and you're able to use it. You put the postcode or the zip code in, it takes you to where you're going quicker, more efficiently, and more productively. So there are literally millions of apps. You can have an app to do your banking, an app to do your whatever. So information is only, or data is only useful when you transform it into information. You see, so you as let's say you're the phone, hardware, this is a physical thing. Without the software, it's no use, or it's not as useful. So you are the same. The information, this will be like an app. Yeah, the app of Antichrist. There's a next app and another app and another app, and you can have access to basically make your life easier by applying that functionality. So you get a book that teaches you how to breathe. It's called the breath book. You learn how to breathe. Why? Because breath keeps you alive. The breathing process keeps you alive. The quality of air, that the energy within that breath. So the chi, or the sakem, as we say, that is what really keeps you alive. So the quality of air you breathe will help you. You see, so these are all, look at them as different apps. Right, let me get through these last questions quickly so we can round off. So it's an illusion in the sense of you need to tap into the real life. So how do we get out? You get out by Wu-Sabat. Maria, can I suggest some, okay, these are people talking. I could hear caller's French accent. Okay. Watching from Malawi. April Ross. Are widows' peaks related to any of the beings you have taught us about? There is a genetic connection. If you read Intelligent Design or Plot of Aliens, if I have it, that goes into that. I don't have it right in front of me. Oh, here you go, I do have it. Let me see if I can. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it actually is coming to the last few minutes, but I just want to show you. Right, here you go. I don't know if you can see that, bro. Yeah. So this shows you about that, the different genes and how they come about, and this covers, you know, everything from the as you're saying, the widow's peak is right here. It shows you about the chin, the dimples, the hair, freckles, eyes, nose. It goes into a lot of detail. So this is Intelligent Design, Divine Design, or Plot of Aliens. Okay, but yeah, there is a significance to the peak, or the widow's peak. BG, I understand what you said about different colors and race. Why is the black race the most hated and everyone are racist towards us? It's because of jealousy. Simply put, you know, like some people, you progress and you're successful and they want what you have and they don't have it. They don't know how you got it. They just want it. But it takes time and work and energy and effort to put into something to get it. So a lot of the times people envy and have jealousies, and they just, you know, they don't express it very well. But that's really the root of it. Or enmity was put between the woman seed and the serpent seed. A better question: what was first, white light race? What was first white light race? that question, you said a better question, but it doesn't really make sense to me. What was first, white, light, race? What? Yeah, I'm not. Light comes out of darkness anyway, so I don't really fully. We're gonna have to pick that up, I guess, in the Telegram group. Okay. How accurate are the DNA tests to see where you are? Not very accurate, depending on who's doing it, because people are mixing DNAs and have done tests to catch them out. Right, we've got the last question. I looked at a few episodes of Black Mirror on Netflix. It jolted me straight away to understanding the importance of raising my personal vibration as a form of protection and self-control. That's what Wu-Sabat does. Gratitude is being disagreeable, sinful. We can't go into that today because what is sin and who says what's sin and what's not sin. Last question, is Queen Khalifa the queen of the Amazonians mentioned in any scrolls, also her man-eating griffin? The actual Amazonians are mentioned because, again, there's a distortion of who they are, really. But unfortunately, you're going to have to join the Telegram group or attend one of the classes or come back next week, same time, same place. And yeah, we can have an opportunity to answer more of your question. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. Without you, we wouldn't do this. So your questions help us to keep on giving you more and more and more. Join the Telegram group. Subscribe to OSM Vision, share, like, and if you want to have a personal one-to-one with me, you can also do that. Or send us your 3 questions by video and we will answer those for you. Ashuk, wu-nuwapu.
Proper black history. You won't get it nowhere else at all.
Islam is a beautiful religion for the Muslims. Christianity is a beautiful religion for the Christians. As Sabaeans, we have our own culture, our own scriptures, our own way of life, which is Wu-Sabat.
Naut Mugdad Badet Patah, Naut Mukhlas Badet Yam.
Wu-Sabat is not a religion, it predates religion. So we don't really subscribe to like the monotheistic religions. And even when you get to Africa, you know, people might talk about Egypt or Kemet or these various names, but our ancestors, they actually go back to the stars from the Orion and Sirius constellation.
In the Bible, Genesis, Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
what color were they?
He was a Hindu. Adam was from Atum and Lilith. Those were his parents. We've got their pictures in our scrolls as well. So how do we get pictures? As 9 ether beings, we can travel to different times. We can go backwards in time and forward in time. We can go into different dimensions. We can